Hey guys. Right, first of all, I know this is a 125 and I know this is a motorway, but I don't have L plates. I just thought I'd throw that out there now. I can actually be on the motorway on the 125 because I passed my test and I don't need L plates anymore. Just in case you're new to the channel and you didn't know that, this is perfectly legal. Anyway, I'm going to continue this vlog once I've got off the motorway, because this is a really boring bit of road. Also, it's probably a bit too loud for you to hear what I was saying properly. But anyway, hello! I thought this time I'd talk about the one serious crash that I've had, which did put me in hospital. And it's the reason I got this bike as well. I think I might have briefly mentioned it in a few videos, but I haven't gone into proper detail on it. Again, I'm going to continue this when I get off this fucking roundabout, because I can never get round here without getting stopped at every set of lights. That's better. Yeah, right, my one serious crash. I'll admit I've come off the bike twice now. So I've come off my bikes twice, and I've had a few like minor incidents, but I've only had one that was serious enough for me to get a new bike and spend 4 months not being able to ride. So yeah, I was up in Lincoln, and I decided to go round the outside of Lincoln down some lovely little country lanes. And the first corner on the way out of Lincoln, it was a downhill onto a 90-degree right-hander, and then straight onto a 90-degree left-hander, and back up a hill. And I'm going to be completely honest, I don't actually know the full details as to why I crashed. I know I went in that corner a bit too hot. Quite a bit too hot. But all I can remember is I went down the hill at about 40 miles an hour, put the brakes on, chucked it down a couple of gears, leaned it round, and as I'm leaning, my front wheel is bouncing off the ground. And as soon as that started to happen, my rear end started to lose grip, that was sliding. And again, the next thing I knew, I'm on a grass verge. I remember actually coming off the bike slid out from under me as it hit the grass verge, did a barrel roll, flipped over, smashed the top of the bike, smashed the side of the bike. Had to pick up pieces of the bike afterwards. I don't remember hitting the ground. I remember the bike going out from under me and watching it bounce and roll. And the next thing I know, I'm laying on the ground about 20 metres from the bike. Luckily, I'd landed on the grass verge as well, because if I'd have landed on the road, that would have been fucking bad. Kind of like this junction is horrible as well. There's only one thing to do here. Let's find a bit of open road there, go over here, and try to ease my way through in front of this lorry. I'm going for it. Made it. But yeah, I'm laying on the grass verge, covered in mud. My helmet was like scraped, dented all down the side of it. I must have been knocked out for a minute as well, because there's no way that I was fully conscious for all of that. As soon as I opened my eyes, I felt fine, if I'm honest. I picked myself up to my knees, took my helmet off, and I knew it was destroyed anyway, so I just threw it in the general direction of the bike, stood up and thought, something doesn't quite feel right, but I think I'm okay. So I walked over to the bike, had a quick look at it and thought, ah, shit, I'm gonna have to buy a new one. I stood there, I picked the bike up. It wasn't a light bike, but I just, adrenaline or something, I managed to just pick it up by myself, get it on the centre stand, and then I sat down at the side of the road on this little grass verge. And just after I sat down, I thought, oh, hang on, my shoulder really doesn't feel right now. So I put my right hand on my left shoulder and felt this massive lump sticking out the top of my shoulder, which turned out to be part of my collarbone. And as soon as I felt that lump, I thought, right, I need to try and get to the hospital, which luckily was 5 minutes back up the road. So if needs be, I could have walked it, probably. But luckily, well, before I get onto the luckily part of it, I'm sat there at the side of the road. I've got a bike that looks like it's just been chucked down the road, because it has. And there's all these people in their cars slowing down to have a look at me and driving off again. If you're one of the people that does that, you're an absolute dick, because you don't know what happened. He could be in serious pain and needing to go to the hospital, which I was, and I lost count of how many cars just slowed down, stared at me and fucked off again. Really annoyed me. But luckily, about 5 minutes later, these two blokes in a car slowed down, wound down the window and said, "You alright, mate?" I went, to be honest, no, I've just crashed and I'm in serious pain right now. So they went and parked up where it was safe, and they both got out of the car, walked up to me, asked me what had happened, and I told them at the time I had absolutely no idea what had happened. I'd just lost control of the bike and ended up sitting on the grass verge. The next thing they said is, right, where does it hurt? And I said, it's my left shoulder. So I pulled back the t-shirt and the jacket I was wearing, just so they could see if there was anything wrong with it. And I swear to God, I'd never seen two grown men jump back that quickly. But they just stood there, jumped backwards and went, "What the fuck is that? Right, get in the car, we're going to take you to the hospital." So, annoyingly, my brain wasn't working the way I wanted it to, so I didn't manage to get their phone number or anything, which I really could have done with, because I really wanted to thank them. I really appreciate what they did. Annoyingly, there isn't many people out there that do that. I mean, normally the most someone will do is stop and call an ambulance, but these people had stopped, checked I was okay. When they realised I wasn't, they took me to the hospital, they walked in with me, and they waited with me while I was waiting to see a doctor. But because I'd just come off the fucking bike and smacked my head on the ground, my brain wasn't thinking properly. So I doubt they'd ever see this video, but if you're watching this and it was you that helped that 17-year-old kid at the side of the road after he'd just crashed a red Suzuki, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. You're a lifesaver. I've gone into the hospital. Something else that really annoyed me. The woman at the desk, as I walked in, I'm standing there wearing all my bike gear, with two blokes standing either side of me. One of them was holding my helmet, one of them was holding my jacket, and I'm standing there clutching my arm to my chest and trying to, I'll be honest, I was trying to hold back tears because by that point it was so fucking painful. If someone is standing there like that, that looks like they've just had a motorcycle accident, the correct question to ask is not, how can I help you? Because it's fucking obvious how you can help me. In fact, anyone at that point, if they're standing in a hospital, asking the question, how can I help you, is redundant. They obviously need to see a fucking doctor. But once I got to see a doctor, the first thing they did was, I mean literally the first thing they did was yank my arm around, putting it in a sling. It took 10 minutes to get my arm into that sling because it would not move comfortably. Every time they like lifted it up or moved it a millimetre, it felt like someone was stabbing me in the shoulder. So I'm stood there swearing my arse off at this bloke. When he finished, I did say, look mate, I'm so sorry about the things I was just saying, but my God, did that hurt. And his response was, oh yeah, I forgot to give you your painkillers. I'll go get them now. Excuse me? You decided to yank my arm around, try and put it in a sling when I'm obviously screaming in pain, and only after you finished putting it in a sling, you go and get me painkillers. Again, if you're a doctor or anything, give people painkillers before you yank their broken shoulder around. That shit was uncomfortable. After they put my arm in the sling, I went down to get the x-ray done, and after they got it done, they called me into the the doctor's office and said, right, this is your x-ray, this is what your collarbone looks like. And for the next 10 minutes I have no idea what he said, because I was stood there looking at this picture of what I could have sworn was not my collarbone. I hadn't just broken it, like cracked it in half and half it had moved up. No, I destroyed it. There was something like 200 pieces of that one bone. And this doctor stood there talking to me. Obviously, he sounded like he was saying something important, but I have no idea what it was, because I'm stood there, my mouth wide open, going, shit, that's fucked. The next thing I remember him saying is the word surgery. At that point I snapped out of it, looked at him and went, am I going to need surgery? And he said, well, it's a possibility. We don't like operating on collarbones because there's so many major arteries around that. It's really close to the heart, and if something goes wrong you could die. Right, thank you, cheers for that. So he spent about an hour speaking to a surgeon, and they're trying to decide if I actually need surgery or not. While this is going on, I'm sat in the waiting room shitting myself, basically, because number one, he just showed me a picture of 200 and something pieces of one bone, and then he told me that if I have surgery and something goes wrong I could die. My brain was seriously fucked by that point. But after they decided if I need surgery or not, they called me back in. They said, right, we're not going to operate, we're just going to leave you in a sling, and hopefully everything will realign itself again. So hopefully everything will realign itself. I don't want a doctor to say hopefully something will happen, I want you to say it will happen, definitely. So they gave me loads of painkillers after that. My dad came and picked me up from the hospital, the first thing we did is we went back to where I'd crashed, because I'd left the bike there, because there's no way I could move it. So we went back there, had a look at it, and my dad decided what I'd already thought of, that is unrepairable. Or if it is repairable, it's going to cost more to repair it than the bike's worth. So at that point I started thinking about what my next bike would be. So we went back to my dad's house and recuperated. We managed to get the bike back about a day later. Let's get it back to my dad's garage. Yeah, I went back to the hospital every 2 weeks after that for checkups, and every single time they were saying, oh yeah, you might still need surgery, and after it's healed we're definitely going to give you like physiotherapy, which I'm still yet to receive. This crash happened, it was a year ago on the 1st of November. It was the 1st of November 2014. I'm never going to forget that date. But yeah, I still haven't had any physiotherapy, and I really could have done with it, because I'm still getting pain and issues with that shoulder now. I've got to try and wrap this up quickly because I'm nearly back at home. We did manage to get the bike repaired in the end. I've still got it actually, it's in my dad's garage. All it needs now is a new alternator. But I'd broken that. Well, that had broken before I crashed. I was bump starting it every time I was using it. I've decided I'm not going to go home, I'm just going to keep talking for a few minutes. Go into Stopfold, why not? Yeah, I've still got that bike, and I kind of want someone to buy it, because I could do with the money, and I'm never going to use that bike again. I couldn't bring myself to use it again, because every time I get on it, I wouldn't be able to enjoy myself on it. It took me 4 months in a sling, not using my left arm at all, before I could ride again. But as soon as I could ride again, I bought this bike, and she's done all right so far. I did make the mistake of buying a Chinese 125 from a very small unknown company, so don't make that mistake. But she breaks down, but she always runs again. It's all good. So yeah, that's the story of my one serious crash, which put me in hospital and put me on a new bike. So yeah, cheers for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you haven't already, click subscribe. My camera's made a really weird noise. I've been actually talking for half an hour now. This is going to be some serious editing. I'll end it here. Catch you all next time.